Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics. In this video, I'd like to discuss how the House of Lords has completely backed down over their amendments to the Brexit bill, how potentially damaging this could be, not just to how Brexit's going to pan out, but to the fact that they've effectively empowered Boris Johnson to now act with impunity for the following Parliament. But first, if you'd like to stay notified of daily news and politics, then please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So, the House of Lords debated the Brexit bill last week, very disapproving eyes on a lot of it. And this week they were putting in amendments and voting amendments. And there were a number of amendments voted through. Boris Johnson was defeated several times. And I'd already talked about the fact that the aspects of the bill that the Lords were trying to amend were not fundamental aspects of it in regards to Boris Johnson's Brexit plans, even though they are insane. The House of Lords doesn't do that. Because it's unelected, it does understand the need not to block legislation on the part of the government. It doesn't do that. It does follow the will of the House of Commons. It really does. What we were talking about was amending aspects that were not running contrary to Boris Johnson's promises. In fact, Boris Johnson made certain election promises about the withdrawal bill that he then went back on with his own amendments. All the Lords were really doing was reversing those amendments. That's actually what they did. They didn't actually, thought of properly, change the Brexit bill at all from what it was for the that was, people are saying that the general election was a referendum on Brexit. If it was, Leave lost. But of course they didn't because although Boris Johnson got a minority of votes, it gave a majority of MPs in Parliament. But if it were, he was presenting his Brexit bill. The Brexit bill that was presented at the time in December is not the Brexit bill as it is now. It has completely changed. All the Lords were doing was changing some of those things back. For example, classic example, refugees who are accepted as refugees by this British government, legally entitled to stay in the UK. Again, this British government have said, yes, we believe you are genuine refugees, but their children are unaccompanied elsewhere. He promised that, of course, he would allow the reunification of those children, unaccompanied children, some of them pre-teen, with their families in this country. All perfectly decent. No one was against that. Even Brexit supporters have nothing against that. There's no argument against that. But for some reason, Boris Johnson reneged on it. And this was a baffling one. And the reason we keep picking on this one, because it was very, very strange. Why would he renege on that? It doesn't change his general negotiating strategy, if he even has one with the EU. It's not a bargaining chip at all. It's no skin off the EU's nose at all either way. It's not something that his supporters desperately want. It's not something that helps out his rich billionaire backers. There was no reason to go back on that promise. It didn't upset anyone, that particular promise. You can only imagine he did it out of spite, a little power trip. That's all I can imagine. All I have is this image of Boris Johnson, who was rendered impotent during the last Parliament and should have been kept impotent as well, and he was let off the hook. And now he's come back, his ego was bruised, and he wants to show just what an arsehole he can be, and there's nothing anyone can do about it. So he changed his Brexit bill, breaking election promises. The Lord said, no, you promised this in the election, so you should stick to it. Made the amendments on those lines, not blocking the bill, not even blocking his hard Brexit, just changing those little things. And he's now overturned it. And I say he's overturned it. That's what the Brexit supporters will say. He actually hasn't overturned these amendments. The Lords did it themselves. What happened was the Lords put these amendments in. Boris Johnson ordered his MPs to vote down those amendments. Now, what would then happen is, so it goes back to the Lords. The Lords have said, no, we want these changes to it. The House of Commons has said, we don't want these changes. Will you please reconsider? At which point, the House of Lords could have said, no, do you know what? You promised these things in the election. You won the election on the basis of these promises. You should keep your word. And it would have gone back to the Commons, and it could have gone what is sometimes termed the ping pong stage. But they haven't. The House of Lords have gone, all right, on your head be it. And the problem with this is, this often happens, by the way, it's not that unusual in itself. The big problem with this now is Boris Johnson has got his way on petty little spiteful acts. Nothing of any great consequence. That's what's so important to mention here. None of these amendments affected him at all. They weren't a personal affront to him or his supporters or anyone. And what it now means is, you've already got to bear in mind, this is a Prime Minister who before was not afraid of breaking the law. He lied to the Queen, he broke the law, and in the most serious way, he runs roughshod over the Constitution. He has no morals at all, completely amoral. And now he knows that if he sends something really terrible to the House of Lords and they say, look, can you not be such a dick, and send it back, he can just say, no, I want to be a dick. And the Lords will go, all right then. I mean, it would have been better if the Lords didn't amend it at all. I'm now upset with the House of Lords. I'm upset with these peers who even made these amendments, because I would rather they hadn't amended it at all if they weren't prepared to stand on that hill and defend it. Because they know what sort of person Boris Johnson is. Yes, it is normal procedure to make amendments, send it back to the House of Commons, and it's basically just them saying, are you sure about this? If you're sure, okay, we'll go along with it, but are you really sure? They can't behave like that with Boris Johnson. It just encourages him. So the problem now is he's going to be increasingly extreme. He's like becoming more and more extreme as time goes on, and every time he gets away with it, he becomes more extreme. He is like a small child testing the borders. He is. And every time he gets past a particular boundary, that's safe ground. He goes to the next one and to the next one. And he's running out of boundaries. He's getting to the point where he may as well just consider himself dictator of the country. Because who is going to stop him? The House of Lords was pretty much the only barrier to the worst excesses. No one was expecting them to block all of his terrible legislation. Only take off the things that were of no consequence to him. But they couldn't even do that. Which is disappointing, bitterly disappointing. And as I said, it would have been better for them not to have amended it at all than to amend it and then just completely capitulate. Because that encourages him, it encourages his supporters, and it does not bode well for the future. So there we are. I hope you found the video interesting, a little depressing, or maybe not. Maybe you support this decision. If you did, don't forget to click the like button if you'd like to support the channel further. Then please also click the Patreon link for details. And until next time, I'll see you later.